Hey everyone, welcome to episode 9 of the Triple W podcast, also known as the Triple Dub. I'm Carita Parks here with my girls for another episode talking Wizards and much more. But you know how we do. We always got to start with our song of the week that we're adding to our Spotify playlist. If you're not following it, make sure you do. So I'll go ahead and kick us off. I was saying that I feel like I need to turn up because last time we were all in like an R&B mode. So I'm going to add sicko mode, Travis Scott, to our playlist this week because I love how the beats like change mid-song and it sounds like you're going to a completely different song. So that's what I'm going with. Becca, how about you?
Well, this week I'm on the same wavelength you are, Carita. I was thinking about something upbeat. It's a new favorite song. I heard it for the first time this weekend. I could not stop listening to it. It is Up by Cardi B. Just really upbeat, makes me want to run 10 miles. Will I run 10 miles? No, but she's giving me that energy. So what are you listening to, Bre? What's going on with you?
Yes, so my song is by Megan Thee Stallion, and it's a throwback. It's a reeler, and it's off of one of her earlier mixtapes, but that's another song that just gets you like, yeah.
Like, I don't know. So we're all upbeat today.
Yeah. And you, Candy?
Listen, I think I'm going to show my age a bit with this one. On Saturday, I did a workout to Bad Boy Entertainment songs. Okay. So one of my favorite Bad Boy Entertainment songs is Whoa by Black Rob. I seem to like songs titled Whoa.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one, though.
By Black Rob, that turned with, I was turned up, but in a 90s kind of way.
Well, hey, you like it, we love it, and that song is a good song. So
it is.
Yeah. Definitely diversify our playlist. So with that being said, it's been a lot going on with the Wizards. They went on their West Coast games and they've been playing like crazy, I feel. I feel like I've been playing with them too. So I'm going to turn it over to Becca, who is going to get into our Wizards talk for this week.
Carita is right. It feels like we were playing, especially the last couple weeks, considering the West Coast trip, late nights for us, after early morning, as you know, the game does not end when the fourth quarter is over for us. We have to go to the press conferences. So we're going to bed at like maybe 1, 2 in the morning. It was an interesting time, but I will say it was worth staying up for because the Wizards did go 3-1 on their West Coast road trip. Incredible, beating the likes of the Lakers, the Nuggets. Who else was? I mean, there was so many
Blazers.
Yeah, they beat everyone out there. Okay, and they beat the Celtics before. They have been on a roll. So I know there's a lot to talk about, but we're going to start with the positives because, Candy always starts off with the positives. So I got to start out I got to keep the tradition going. So I'm going to start with my positive, and that is the Wizards are somewhat playing defense, and you could really tell that they are attempting to play defense, and you know what they are. Defense is always important. The fact that they're starting to convert to both ends of the floor, that's awesome. I mean, what more could you ask for, right? Like, the offense is there, the defense is there. We're good here, right?
Absolutely. That's definitely played into it. So I'm going to tell you what my positive is.
Okay.
Mo Wagner and Garrison Matthews. Since they've been in the lineup, February 14th is when they got in there. And that has contributed to the Wizards' win streak. They won 5 in a row when they entered the starting lineup. And overall went 7-2 in that stretch. Mo Wagner, he brings that energy. He's learned how to draw offensive fouls. He's good on the defensive end. And then Garrison Matthews, he's just been balling. And one thing he always said is that he wanted to be able to help Brad out and that it can't all just be on Brad's shoulders. And he's doing his thing. Two-way player in the starting lineup, undrafted. Like, shout out to Garrison Matthews, who is killing it. And he had one of his best games against the Timberwolves.
Yeah,
he's gonna get the bag. He's gonna get that bag.
Absolutely.
He gave that speech about, you know, how they can't just take these losses and, you know, let it beat them up. Like, he's stepped up himself as well. And even speaking of stepping up, you know, Russ, he's been able to play in back-to-back games now, which is a big improvement and a great positive as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you all are naming some awesome positives. I'm going to add to that list and say Rui Hachimura has been my positive of this trip. I had to laugh to myself like, oh my gosh, they got Rui out here. He's just guarding Damian Lillard, LeBron, Kawhi. I'm like, man, look, Rui, they always mention that Rui said that he could guard the 1 through the 5.
Yeah.
And Russell Westbrook stamped that. Like, yes, he can guard the 1 through the 5. And I'm like, they are making him do just that. And he was working his tail off. So I want to give a shout out to Rui Hachimura. That was definitely a positive spot for me watching them these last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I do have one more. And I won't go into it too much. I think I can just say it and everybody will get it. Davis Bertans.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's it.
And to add on to that, that he has made, he's on a streak because the last 16 games he's made at least 2 3-pointers, and that's huge for someone people weren't sure if he was gonna bring any value anytime soon, considering his shape conditioning.
Yeah, that's a great point, because if you all remember the Clippers game, they were all over Davis.
Yeah,
they really were. And I recall Coach Brooks saying in the presser, he was mentioning that and just saying, well, people know that when Davis gets hot, we win the game. So he was like, everyone knows that by now, because you remember when they played the Clippers, that was the night after they had just beat the defending champs. I just felt like I had to say that. There's any Lakers fans watching the Wizards did beat y'all a couple Mondays ago, last Monday. So anyway, that was my petty side coming out. Sorry.
Keep it going.
We here for the petty.
Right, exactly. So, you know, they know. You're exactly right. They know when Davis gets hot, the Wizards win the game. So, yep, shout out to Davis as well.
Yeah, he was 9 for 11 threes against the Nuggets and 5 for 6 against Houston. I mean, that's 80% shooting from the 3-point line. And that's just a taste of what he can do. But we need him to keep that up. And he has so far. So, yeah, that's a positive.
That's all we can ask him, right? That's all we can ask. Just get your threes off and make sure that they go in. Okay, positives. There's so many positives, obviously. I mean, for a team that went 9-7 in the month of February, for, you know, considering how we've been seeing them play, they have improved so much. So let's talk about possible improvements. I personally do not have a big improvement, but what I will add is I think the back-to-back scheduling is kind of wearing them out. Don't you think, ladies? It's kind of giving them, because you saw yesterday during the Celtics game, like they just look like their offense was a little off because they're just tired. I mean,
and on
that
top
can be
of that,
rough.
the traveling in between the back-to-backs. Like, I know that they're used to doing that, but when it's like back to back and then you get like 1 day rest and then another back to back, it's
brutal.
Yeah. And on top of that, the travel and, you know, it's a lot.
And they came from the West Coast on top. Like, they came from the West Coast. They were back home for 1 game and then they had to go back on the road again. That's definitely a lot.
Yeah, I'll probably look. I always want to talk about the positives, but then it's like I feel like I have to bring up the damper, right?
It's
Yesterday,
an improvement.
that was a tough loss against the Celtics yesterday. And so I want to say an area of improvement is still just sustaining that lead. I feel like now the Wizards have been doing well in that regard recently, right? So it's kind of hard to be tough on them about yesterday's loss, but I saw that loss, that game unravel in the final moments, and that hurt. That really hurt. And
all
I know
for a slip.
All for a slip. But I could tell even the easy layups that Jason Tatum was starting to get. It was like, wait a minute, we just letting
it's
it
like, what are y'all doing?
We letting it
go.
go.
You know this.
Exactly. So they got to still close and finish.
Mm-hmm.
That was a game that was right there in their hands. And I feel like that game would have been huge because they, like Becca, I think you mentioned a moment ago, they beat the Celtics.
Right.
A couple weeks ago. So that would have
getting another win would have solidified it. Like, hey, we're out here.
Yep.
And because they did beat them the last time, we know that the Celtics were already coming in like there's no way we're going to lose this one. And we're not going to lose back-to-back to them. But and we were so close, 1 point.
Like they almost did.
Beal, 46 points. Are you kidding me?
Right.
We need to stop the Wizards. I'm not taking credit for that. The Wizards need to really hold on to games where Beal is explosive like that, because when he's throwing it down like that, there's no reason why. And I think I saw everybody tweet yesterday. I saw Carita's tweets. I saw Candy's tweets.
I don't tweet.
Bree doesn't tweet, but I know she was thinking it. I know she was thinking it. Beal should be in the MVP conversation, and we all felt that yesterday. So, Wizards, you gotta handle your games. We saw a little vintage Wizards yesterday, so I agree with Candy. That was a downside.
Yeah, and I mean, mine went right hand in hand with Candy. I was going to say late game execution, even though they've had a lot of wins, don't get me wrong, but that's before the wins, late game execution was a problem. And then we saw that happen last night because Jason Tatum, he had 8 points in 90 seconds.
Right.
I mean, that's crazy. The slip from Brad was definitely unfortunate, but they let Jason Tatum get on a hot streak. It fell apart in like the last 2 minutes because before Tatum, there were a couple shots that Boston made too that closed the gap, and I think they were within 5. So that's what I would say.
And you know what, too? The end of the game, when Beal had the last, possession, I feel like he definitely could have passed that to Westbrook. He was being double teamed, and I just feel like, well, I don't know, 4 seconds, it's kind of, it goes fast to them, for us, it's slow. It's like, we're staring at a TV, but I don't know. I just feel like that last possession, they definitely could have handled better. But I mean, how often do teams lose 1 point within 1 point? So, that game could have gone either way. Unfortunately, it did not go the Wizards' way.
Yeah. Nobody probably wants to hear this, but we have to also give like Brad Stevens some credit for that coaching at the end of the game, because that play he called was like just his coaching at the end of the game was legit.
Listen, well, Carita, I'm glad you said it. I always feel like I'm getting down on Scott Brooklyn. He's so nice. But listen, like at the end of the day, that's exactly right. I feel like a piece of that was the Wizards got outcoached in the final minutes of that game. They just absolutely did. Yeah, I'm a not a Brad Stevens fan. Don't but
no.
But listen, he is what he is.
Coaching, he's a good coach.
He got outcoached at the end, and it's just what happened. I mean, he did own up to the fact that before Brad slipped, he should have called a timeout.
Yes.
So there were some mistakes on the coaching end too. But don't get me wrong, Coach Brooks has coached this team into a winning streak. Yeah. So, but that was just an observation. Like Brad Stevens, definitely called some plays there at the end.
You called that?
And every game, someone has to lose, someone has to win. In that instance, it's just like Scotty had to take
fans were salty last night, and I get it. But listen, after the stream of wins that Scott Brooks has produced. I had to mute my Twitter conversations. I was like, listen, y'all are complaining for a team that was dead last in the beginning of the season and is now somewhat, 3.5 games back from the 4th seed or something along those lines. I think we'll be all right if this is, what's going to continue to happen. A game or two here and there, I'll be fine.
And you know what? I think it's important to note this, and ladies, you all let me know what you think. Brad Beal in the presser, he was so dejected. Like the team was really upset about losing that game last night. They were really mad. Like they were so disappointed. And it's not like you want people to be upset, but it's kind of like you do want to see that emotion of we were right there. So that's, to me, while it's sad to watch anybody be upset or disappointed, it's a positive because this team believes they can win these games and feels like they should have, and they get really down on themselves when they don't.
Yeah.
Well, Brad said they could have been 8-1. Like, I think he was upset because 8-1 was like right there, and they couldn't capitalize on it because of the end of the game. And then having the game in the bag the entire time, and then it just unraveling in the final seconds. And then I think the slip also was just like a dagger.
The whole
like
sequence
really
of events.
Yeah, like, seriously. Like you said, Becca, they had one job. Somebody said they had one job, which was
that was
the
me.
floor.
Yeah. Now, I think that was Kamaya, and I think my tweet was I at the Celtics, and I said, "Oh yeah, and at Celtics, mop your floor next time."
That's what it was. I saw
y'all playing dirty with that mop stuff, okay? And I think even Jason Tatum slipped on that floor. They just got to get it together. Those mop boys should be ashamed of themselves. So, so okay, we got our positives, we got our negatives, which weren't really considered negatives, but we have to say something. So now that half the season is almost complete, what do you ladies expect to see in the second half of the season now that we've experienced the first? I'll be quick to answer my opinion in that I think the Wizards will continue. I don't know if they're going to be as hot as they were in February, but I think February gave them enough confidence to keep the momentum going.
I would agree with that, Becca. The schedule definitely gets tougher. They have, I think, the Bucks, the Grizzlies, a couple other teams. I wrote down a couple. Oh, the Sixers. So the schedule will continue to get tough. But for me, I see them gaining their chemistry.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, Mo Wagner, Garrison Matthews in the lineup has been an energy booster. Davis Bertans is starting to get hot. So I think they're finding their rhythm. And while they might not have the same hot streak, like you said, I do think they're in a position to find ways to win now. Before, they were just letting things like just go. And it's up in Russell, with Russell being healthy too, the way he's attacking the rim and attacking the ball, I think we'll see more of that too. So I think there's positives. It'll be tough, but I think they have some fight in them now.
I definitely agree. I think they'll come back because we've seen them lose a lot, and we know they don't like to lose, which is all good. They've lost a lot. They don't like to lose. So I really think they're going to make a push. I think they are going to, rightfully so, try to make a push at least. I mean, what are they, 12 now? So it's probably like far-fetched. Like, yeah, right. You're not going to, but they might. You never know. They could go on a hot streak. And still try to finish, not at the bottom. So
I mean, in terms of standings, they're right there.
Yeah,
they're right there.
Far off.
Yeah,
from the number 9 position. So
which is crazy to think about a team that was struggling so much. But I think, as Carita said, they've found their identity. They're starting to form their identity, and they're starting to understand everybody's roles on the team. And I think it's going to be a lot smoother now that they've figured that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. They don't, like what you guys all said, they do not want to go back to where they were. And I think now it's like definitely a restart, and it's like, okay, we know how to win. We've done it multiple times together. So let's just keep that going. And
Yep.
And I just want to add this too. Those wins were not like fluke wins.
No, they
not
weren't.
at all.
They were real wins. It wasn't like someone could say, oh, well, that team had half of their starters out. They had this or had that. Doesn't matter who was out. Most of the players were in. They played all 4 quarters. Took the Lakers that ended up going to overtime, but they played. It wasn't a fluke at all. We saw what we saw, and they played the games that they played. So
yeah,
kudos to them. Seriously,
They played consistent basketball start to finish, and I think that's something that the Wizards have struggled with, but they've now kind of gained the strength and the momentum to close out the games, even if it's close games. However, they did what they had to do, and I mean, without Thomas Bryant, don't forget that. So like they want to say, oh, the other team's injured, they don't have their players. Well, we don't have one of our players, and he's a big influence. So
it was good to see him sitting on the sideline during
it
that
is.
one.
It definitely was. Yeah.
Well,
Nowhere
ladies,
to go but up.
any other thoughts? You guys have anything else to add?
No, I was just going to say the same thing, Becca, in the sense of we do have to think about what this team has overcome, because they were the only team in the league out of commission for 2 weeks dealing with the COVID situation. They had the injuries, Thomas Bryant, also Ish Smith, so they've had some blows early. And so for them to put together a 5-game win streak, win 7 games out of 9, when they were struggling so much at first, I think it shows that they can overcome adversity and they have something to prove. And I think that's why we saw them so mad last night, Candy, because they feel like they have something to prove. And I like that energy.
Right.
I can get used to these wins. I can get used to it. Honestly, I have not seen the Wizards consistently win. We all haven't seen them consistently win games. So to watch 5 wins in a row, I was like, are you serious? Like, I'm cool with this, but are you sure? Like,
right.
Maybe they need to do it again so we could just make sure.
Right. I got to be honest with you all. Like, I take the wins in stride. Like, I'm like, okay, and I was even pretty cool when they beat the Lakers. I was just like, ooh, would you look at that? It was funny, but it was like, okay. But for some reason, when they beat the Nuggets the second time, I was like damn, in my living room. I was like, oh my God. Like, I was just like, I don't know why I was so like hype about that win. I don't know.
My ego has been through the roof with this team. Like, at win after win after, the Lakers really did it for me. I don't know why, but that overtime, because we were expecting LeBron to take over, and you know what he does to the Wizards. So the fact that they missed all their shots and LeBron couldn't close out the game, I was like jumping up and down around here. I probably woke people up in the apartment next door. Like, I could not control myself. So I'll take all of these wins. Close or not close, or flukes, not flukes. I'll take all of it.
A dub is a dub.
Is a dub. So that being said, I think we've done a quick, short summary of everything that's been going on with the Wizards. But next week is actually, I think next week is All-Star Week. Did I remember that, Brianna? What's going on?
Yep. So this weekend is All-Star Weekend. And of course, we know it's looking a lot different, very different from how it has in previous years, of course, due to COVID-19, and it won't go away. So All-Star this year is literally one day. As we can see here, this is the schedule for All-Star. Of course, we have the game. We're still having the 3-point contest and the skills challenge and the slam dunk contest, but it's all kind of being crammed into like a few hours, which should be very interesting to see.
Jam-packed.
Right. It's just gonna be like you can't get up to from your TV. You gotta stay glued in. I am gonna kind of miss, the of course all the other activities that usually happen over the weekend. But this is, we already discussed in our previous episode, so please go back and watch that. But about what our opinions were about the All-Star game and about it coming back. But again, this should be interesting. But even overall, as we have mentioned in the previous section, our guy Bradley Beal has been playing out of his mind, and we were all very, very excited to hear that he is a NBA All-Star starter, and so that was amazing. We were able to talk to him after the news came out, and it was funny, like seeing him, and he was just kind of like, I thought it would happen, but now that it's happened, it's kind of like, oh, like
I know, playing it cool.
He was relieved. I felt like he was just calm. He was a lot more calm than I thought he would be.
Yeah. Well, he kind of made a mention about like no longer trying to prove that he was an all-star. So maybe like transitioning his mindset to just like being the best player he could be in general, or for his team, I think is what he said. Maybe that shifted mindset like helped him just be like, hey, okay, cool. Like I made it. That's good. But that wasn't like what my sole focus was like the previous season.
Right. Yeah. What about you, Candy?
I mean, it's exciting. I've been a Bill fan. You ladies know this for the longest time. So I feel like he's finally getting his flowers, He's worked very hard. He's earned his spot. And I think across the league knows exactly the type of player that Brad is. I think this is more so for the fans. Like, I think he made a comment in the presser about him feeling like sometimes the fans didn't believe in him. So now it's like everybody, folks believe in him. And you guys are right. I think he was like relieved, and it was just like, wow, like prayers answered, and he's seeing the return on his investment of just working hard all during the season and off. So I'm really, really happy for Brad and his family. This is an exciting time for them.
Yeah. I asked him about how he was going to tell his sons about it, and I wonder how that conversation went. I'm sure it was pretty cute. but yeah, so we're just really happy for him. As you can see, these are the starters from the East and the West, and LeBron and KD are the captains. And then, of course, all the reserves that came out too. There was a lot of discussion of who people would take off, or who they think should be removed. Was there anybody that you guys were like didn't deserve to be an all-star?
No, I don't. It was hard, but you know what? I think Trae Young should have been on there. I personally think he should have, but then again, it's that discussion. Okay, if you want to add somebody, who would you take off? I can't say who I would take off. So that's the problem.
Yeah. I don't have any strong opinions about someone coming off of the All-Star game. I mean, there's going to be no fans there anyway. So
right. Yeah, I know there was a lot of talk about Devin Booker, I think, getting in, but I think he ended up getting in because Anthony Davis from the Lakers is injured. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
He's injured. So Devin Booker got in. That was probably like my only tag. But to Becca's point, if you add somebody, who you gonna take away? I think they got it right. I think it's good.
I mean, it works for me because Bradley Beal's a starter. So honestly, I don't care about anything else.
Brad got in.
The same thing. I was just focused on the Wizards, but yeah.
We got what we wanted. So how about that? We're good here.
Right, exactly. And so other things that are, of course, as we said, there were a lot of players that were even debating if they were even going to go to the All-Star game, if it, even before they had planned for it to happen. But now that it is happening, the league is doing a lot of great things to help to benefit and to bring awareness during the All-Star weekend. And of course, it's going to be in Atlanta, and they are emphasizing that they are going to be supporting HBCUs and COVID, and bringing awareness again for COVID-19. And getting the vaccine and information, and just exposing the information, because information is power. So this is all great efforts that the league is putting towards this. Again, we'll have to see how it all plays out, but hopefully everything runs smoothly. There's no outbreaks that happen, or
Right.
we just
Yeah.
pray that it's all fine, and all the players that are not going to the All-Star game are fine too with the activities that they decide to do. And speaking of the league, there was also a lot of discussion over these past few days about the NBA logo. Of course, Kyrie, he had expressed that he believes that the logo does need to be changed, and it should be changed to the late Kobe Bryant. And these were his thoughts.
He was the standard for our generation, and he will continue on. And I want that to be something in history that is changed forever, that our generation was part of that change. And, if that means that I have to lead that forward and get the conversation going, then great. But, I think he deserves it. I think his family deserves it. I think we deserve it, as seeing greatness personified as Mamba. And anyone that's coming into the league should know that that's the example that was set. And I'm only saying that just speaking about Kobe. I don't want to discredit any of our other historical players that have done amazing things for the league. I'm not discrediting anyone when I say that Kobe should be the logo, because we have so many examples of guys that did things on and off the floor that were leaps and bounds for us to be where we are now. So I'm just saying present day, I think it was 224. It was only a year after the memorial. And, it's just a refresher that this is the guy for us. He's the guy for me. He's my mentor, more than just an inspiration. I took a lot of knowledge and wisdom from that guy, and he's always around me. And Gigi's always around me. And I know that in the women's game, we want to continue to push things forward, but in our game too, we want to set a standard and a precedent. Like this is excellence. Kobe Bryant logo. Yes, needs to happen. I don't care what anyone says. Black Kings built the league. It's exactly what I meant. It's exactly where I stand.
And as he's mentioned in that, he was saying no disrespect towards Jerry West, which a lot of people know that he is the model of the current logo right now. And when I was listening to people talking about, this discussion, how Jerry West became the logo is, it wasn't supposed to be like modeled after him. And I think that was a lot of people were like, why would they even pick him to be the logo? And apparently it was supposed to be just a generic body shape that looked like a basketball player that could fit, that would be on the logo. And so they had narrowed it down to like a few people. His photo worked the best, and then he didn't find out till years later that he was the logo. But it wasn't supposed to like idolize Jerry, but people took it that way. But anyways, a few years ago, also Jerry West was on The Jump, and he did discuss his opinions about being the logo.
I've said it more than once, and it's flattering if that's me, and I know it is me,
Yes.
but it is flattering. And but to me, as I say, I played in the time when they first started to try to market the league. There were 5 people that they were going to consider, and I didn't find out about it until, well, the late commissioner told me about it, Walter Kennedy. And then obviously the New York Times had a big article about it. But again, it's flattering, but it's also, I think, if I were the NBA, I would be embarrassed about it. I really would.
Why?
Because I don't know. I just say, I don't like to do anything to call attention to myself. When people say that, that's just not who I am, period. Wow. And if they would want to change it, I wish they would. In many ways, I wish they would.
Well said.
Yeah, so I was just like, oh, that's so sad. Like the first time that I heard it, like he just seemed so sad about that he's the logo. And so it should be interesting to see what happens. I mean, what do you guys think? Should they change the logo? It's, people are saying it's going to cost a lot of money, to have to erase it off of everything that we know. I mean, what do you guys think?
I last year when that tragic accident happened with Kobe and Gigi and the other families, as the week went on, I was like, they got to change the logo. I was just thinking to myself, like, this generation, I mean, Kobe, it's exactly what Kyrie said. That's who the league is almost modeled after. It's not, and other, players to come. Kobe is Kobe. That's their guy. I mean, for some of us, Michael Jordan may have been, our guy, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar may have been for others. Bill Russell for others. But for right now and where we are in the league currently, in the future of the league, I can't think of a better person than to be the logo. Even if Kobe was alive, I would be like, Kobe can be the logo. Absolutely.
Mhm.
If we all remember, when Kobe passed, the impact he had across all sports, across everyone. I mean, people were crushed, and really broken by that. So I think it should be considered and welcomed. And I sincerely hope that it is.
Yeah, I think that I absolutely agree with Kyrie's points in regards to his reasoning behind making Kobe the logo. And I absolutely also agree with what Candy had to say. I think the heart, for me, if anyone who knows me knows I'm also like in PR. So I think about it's like such a huge endeavor to change the logo. But I think there's like great ways to honor Kobe that are more obvious in the logo. Because honestly, I don't think anybody knows the logo. I'm not going to say anybody. I don't think a lot of people, especially this generation, even connect the logo to a person, to be honest. So I don't know if that's the best way to honor Kobe, just because the generations, like, they probably will not even realize that the logo is modeled after Kobe. So I think doing something that's more, in my opinion, that would stand out more and that would always be noticed is more of a way to go.
Exactly. And to Carita's point, if they change the logo now, in another 50 years, somebody else comes along and is impactful to the current generation, are they going to say, well, we have to change it again? And I don't see the NBA constantly changing the logo. So I'm going to point to the NBA and say, listen, if you want to change it to Kobe Bryant, I think that's amazing. He defines the league. He defines a lot of the players, current players' careers and former players. But it's a business decision. It's very costly. And but on the other hand, Jerry West doesn't care. He's a very humble guy. He would not be offended. But if it means a lot to a lot of people, and the NBA can afford all the logistics of changing the logo, then I'm for it. Why not?
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens. 'Cause just like what all you guys are saying, Kobe has connected with not only this generation but previous generations. Everybody has respect for him. Everybody has love for him all over the world, not even just here. So yeah, it will be interesting. I mean, I think whatever choice that they make, it will be the smart choice. They'll definitely consider all options. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see. But that's all I got for what's going on in the NBA. And I'm going to hand it over to Candy.
All right. So up next, we have our Women in Sports highlight. This is such an honor for us to share who our Women in Sports highlight is for this episode, coming right out of Black History Month and now into Women's History Month. We are shouting out somebody in our own city, and that is Miss Danita Johnson, the president of business operations for DC United. I'm going to leave her picture up for a moment. Danita's just making crazy history. She is the first Black president of a Major League Soccer club. Let me repeat that. The first Black president of a Major League Soccer club. Absolutely want to shout her out. Welcome her to DC. She officially joined the club in January. She has 15 years of experience in the sports industry, prior to her role here as the president of DC United, she was with the LA Sparks, and also she developed and led the ticket sales and service department for the Mystics. So she spent some time. This is not her first time in DC and rocking out with us here. So we want to say welcome to DC. Or welcome back, I should say.
This isn't her first rodeo.
Not her first rodeo. Also wanted to say what's up to her and a shout out to her because she's also one of my sorors. She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So it is always amazing to see my sorors doing amazing things, but also, of course, always minorities in sports, women in sports. Want to just honor her on this early part of Women's History Month. And just looking forward to all the great things that she's going to do with DC United. So
yeah,
that is our Women in Sports spotlight for this week.
But thank you so much, Candy, for ending our show on such a positive note, like you said, from Black History Month to Women's History Month. And we always highlight women in sports, but this month especially is going to be a great way to honor these women through our platform.
Yes.
So with that, we will definitely see everyone next week. But before I let you go, make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram at W Pod. Make sure you follow us personally. All of our handles are in the window, so make sure you do that. Follow our Spotify playlist for some good music from our first season. We're going to continue to build upon that. And we will see you next week for more Wizards and NBA talk. That's it for the Triple Dub.
Bye.